the budget was tabled earlier this week. And as always, what you need to do is go through the nitty gritty, because as they say, the devil is in the details. And we see that the budget offers mass amnesty for asylum seekers. And I think this is a horrible mistake. My reference to the U.S., when they asked Ronald Reagan after he got out of office, what was his biggest regret? What did he think his biggest mistake was? You might recall in the 80s, he offered mass asylum for illegals. Turned out to be the wrong call. Alexa, why don't we stay with you, because you have a great knowledge of this. You've been to the infamous Roxham Road so many times when the mean members of law enforcement in the RCMP, well, they reinvent themselves as the Royal Canadian bellhops, and they help the illegal aliens over the border with their designer luggage. What's your take on amnesty for so-called asylum seekers?
So first of all, now we talk about 500,000, but we need to know that this is the number of people. Like, we need to count. Okay, the illegal immigrant, the student visa, that the people will actually turn into refugee. There is so many people who are now who wants to claim refugee, but the problem is in this. Okay. They say starting in 2026. What do you think will happen in the couple of months to come? What do you think it will happen? People will flood into the country because they will know that they might have a permanent, like, sorry, I'm losing. Like,
a chance at amnesty.
Yeah, but a permanent residency. And then afterwards, what we have C3 that is stable. Can we actually talk about the consequences of all this? Because at this moment, everybody is talking about we need to put the immigration under control. It's not by giving them all permanent residency with really light screening and then say, oh, you are Canadian. What Canadian means now, what being a Canadian means now. Because when we look at the population in Canada that are immigrant, I think we are at what, 23% of immigration here of the population here in Canada. So we need to think first, do we want to screw what is left here in Canada? Or do we want to take action right now? Because what he's doing, it will just naturalize lots of people that we don't know their background check. There is probably some people who are, as of right now, glorifying like terrorist organization in our streets, who are maybe anti-Semite, or are probably maybe like part of the Muslim Brotherhood or other like terrorist organization, who are just sleeper cell. Can we actually think of the consequences that this represents for Canada? Because I'm pretty sure that America, the US, will now consider Canada as a really dangerous country, and they might have some restriction for us to then go to the US. Because do you really think that the US will just stay there and just say, yeah, we just let like everybody in Canada to come, when we know that we are just naturalizing like a bunch of people that we have light screening?
Yeah. No, they are serious about border security, and they know that we're not serious. But Tasha, in the bigger picture, we have temporary foreign workers, we have international students, we see asylum seekers about to get mass amnesty. Let me put it this way. I don't know what it's like in Montreal, but in the GTA, I swear to God, I cannot remember the last time I went down a main street and I saw a placard in a shop window saying help wanted. And the point is, we have super high unemployment, especially in certain areas. Windsor, Ontario, 11.2%, the highest it has ever been since they started keeping those stats. Youth unemployment, I think, is at 14.7%. Well, how the hell are Canadian citizens supposed to get a job when we keep importing people to take those jobs?
Yeah. I don't think there's any design in the Liberal policies to increase employment. I think they want as many dependents as possible because that's how they get votes. They make people broke, they make them dependent. And the productive class has to fund all of this. And the productive class is getting smaller and smaller and smaller under the yoke of all of these policies. And their voter base is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't think they're bringing all these foreigners in because they have warm hearts. I don't think that the motivation is to make Canada a stronger country. I think it's simply to have voters in perpetuity so that the communism will continue and we will never, ever be able to vote our way out of this. I see it as treason. I don't think there can be a logical argument made that this is not treasonous. I did not sign up to have my daughter's future signed away by these crushing mediocrity turncoat traitors. I didn't. And people who will only argue this on economic grounds are also missing the point. We have a culture in Quebec. This is one thing that Quebec does well. Quebecers will assert their culture and they will say, we don't do that here. We're not interested in your silly BS from whatever backwards country you're coming from. If you want to come here, this is how you live. That's it. The rest of Canada, they still are too squeamish to make comments like that. And so not only are we flooded by people who are taking entry-level positions from the youth, not only are we dealing with catastrophic infiltration in our trucking industry of corrupt Indian trucking companies who are giving fake licenses basically to people who are from Punjab. Not only are we dealing with the drug trafficking of the same cohort, but the Conservatives won't even really identify the problem as it stands and talk about culture. So it's very, very it's catastrophic, and I don't see people with strong enough rhetoric because they're still afraid of being called racist. I don't want to live in the Middle East. That doesn't make me a racist.
No, I totally understand. Viva, to Natasha's point, I truly believe that under the Biden administration, the reason why there was open borders and an estimated 21 million illegal aliens came into the U.S., they want to change the demographics. They want to tell those illegals, hey, remember, every 4 years, vote Democrat. We're the guys that got you American citizenship. And likewise with the Trudeau Liberals, now Carney Liberals, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're not going to stop you at the border. And wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're going to give you amnesty to become a Canadian citizen. Just remember, every federal election, vote red. Is this what's going on, or am I just too damn cynical here?
No, you're 100% right. The montages of Democrats saying demographics is destiny is out there. I mean, it's tactics, it's strategy, it's not racist conspiracy theories. But there's a few points to make here. First of all, Reagan was wrong on amnesty. That's fine. There were something like 3.5 million illegals in the country when Reagan was talking about it. You're up to now 20, if you can believe the number, which I don't, give or take. And so amnesty is going to be a demographic change, a culture shift of the country. And this is in America. In Canada, it's going to be the same problem. You just have a smaller population. But also, asylum seekers. How are we defining asylum? They're defining asylum by financial status, corporate, not corporate, but looking for a better life economically, economic asylum. And when you've got people, I forget where I saw this and heard this, but so-called asylum seekers vacationing to their home of asylum from which they've claimed asylum, you realize it's just rebranding of open borders. And, as relates to open borders and terrorism, what is it, like 90 some odd % of all people on terror watch lists nabbed at the border going to the US are nabbed at the Canadian side because they're giving visas away to Indians, to Pakistanis, left, right, and center, student visas that they default on 5% of the time. And they are threats. And then they try to crawl into the States to do Lord knows what. And it is, like Natasha said, the point now where Canada has become a national security threat to the United States of America. And jobs, I mean, it's all by design. Just make it so bad that it's a disaster to govern. The Canadians losing jobs to foreigners, it's corporate corruption. When they give these $35 an hour jobs at Tim Hortons to foreigners, it's subsidizing the corporation. They don't pay those employees what they say they're going to pay them. They exploit those workers. The corporation gets the subsidies, and that is laundering tax dollars to corporations. And it's exactly how the Liberals get into power, stay into power, and now that they've lost so much of the support among the population, they've got to import the next generation of voters to have it be a one-party state for the rest of Canadian history.
No, you're
But
so
also-
right. Go ahead, Alexa.
But also, it's really easy to control a population when the population lost their identity. When nobody will know what Canadian means to be, and that the government would just put more regulation and rules, and that like everybody can be called a Canadian. Same if you never actually put a feet into Canada. I think it's really easy to control a population when the population is just lost in their own identity.